Okay, sorry about that. We're back up and running. So okay, I am so sorry about that. We're gonna start all over again. Apparently, you could not hear me. So welcome. Good afternoon to the Recovery Works. You guys, I'm so sorry. I have just been spending the last 5 minutes talking, and none of you apparently could hear me. So if somebody could just confirm that you can hear me, I would greatly appreciate it. Kylie, I hear a bunch of people typing, and now you can hear me. This is awesome. Thank you.
Happy Monday.
Yay, it's Monday, and it's a holiday week, so woo! Okay, so, all right, we're going to get started now. So thanks, everybody, for responding. So first of all, I'm super excited to see the number of participants that we have here with us. You are joining us for the Recovery Works Dharma and Wits user manual training. So thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have all of you on here with us. My name is Angie Borman. I am the program manager for Recovery Works, and it's a pleasure to have, again, all of you here with us. So today we're going to talk about Dharma and Wits and how they interact for this Recovery Works program. So Dharma is the Data Assessment Registry for Mental Health and Addiction. It is the database system for the state, and it captures our consumers, all of their information, their answers, and fun, wonderful information. WITS stands for Web Infrastructure for Treatment Services, and it is the state's voucher management system. So it captures the billing, and it is what this program is going to do to basically pay all of you guys. So it's a great system. Those of you that are familiar with access to recovery or gambling or expert programs, WITS is what we utilize for all of those programs. So we are going to just go ahead and jump right in and move forward. So we're going to start Dharma. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Ooh, this is fun. Okay. So what's going to happen today is I'm going to share and how like for all of you guys on your end. The is now available for you to print off after the end of the training today on the Recovery Works website, so that you guys can do this after January 1 on your own. And so I'm just gonna show you what this looks like from beginning to end, and then you can print off the manual so that you can start doing this with your own participants after today. So we're just going to follow along, and I'm going to show you how to do this in our testing site, and we'll go from there. So first page, first step, and what this looks like is this is what your login page looks like. So you will, each one of you have your own login if you have the abilities to log into Dharma. So you will log. Okay, if you do it right, you'll log in. I obviously need to do it right. So this is what your home page will look like inside of Dharma QA. So the first step when you're looking to enter a client is you must first search for a client, because we want to make sure that we're not entering duplicates into the system. So my participant today, his last name is Teller, and his first name is Jackson. For those of you that are Sons of Anarchy fans, we're going to put in Jackson Teller today. So Jackson is not a consumer in Dharma, so we are going to add a new consumer. And this is what the next page is like. So we're going to go ahead and fill in the rest of these spaces. First is Jackson. His last name is already filled in from the previous page. Middle name is required field that you can do. Mom's maiden name. Again, if you have that, that's great. Date of birth is a required field. 04 09 70. Male or female is a social security number is a required field. Zip code is a required field. Medicaid ID is not a required field. However, if your consumer or your participant has a Medicaid or HIP ID, this number is a required field. And the reason behind that is that if the we do Medicaid match program, and the only way for Recovery Works to know if participant Medicaid and if we can pay towards that Medicaid match, we have to have the Medicaid number here in this spot. For ease of training today, we are going to include a Medicaid number. So Jackson Teller is non-Hispanic Latino, and he is Caucasian. And these last two spots are not required fields right now. And we're going to go ahead and so next role that we're going to create an episode, and this starts the process of enrolling Jackson into the program, into Dharma. So, excuse me, all must have an internal episode code, the required field. Internal episode code you create within your own agency. So typically they're codes that you would find inside your own EMR. They're codes that you may find just within your agency. So for ease today, I'm just going to go ahead and make it Jackson's birth date because that's pretty easy. So the episode start date is going to be today's date. All of our consumers are going to be DMHA supported consumers, and that's all of our consumers within the 200% poverty line. So that means that they are all DMHA supported consumers. Now Jackson, and he is wife in Marion County because that was a Marion County zip code. Where is it? There it is. He does not have a disability, and his referral source was the court or criminal justice system because that's what Recovery Works is about. And he was referred by his probation officer. His family is 4, and his household income is $46,325. His prior substance number of times your participant has had previous substance abuse treatment episodes. So for today's practice, he's had 2. And Jackson has 2 dependent children. He does not have insurance, but if we use the correct correspondence answer, no military, so it automatically fills in, it automatically populates the rest of those answers. And no Medicaid, no HIP, no SNAP, no food stamps, and no TANF. So once you've answered all of those questions, you will insert, and that's answered. So then from stage, we will address the NOM. I'm going to just a second. Were there any questions about the episode?
Yeah, I'm entering the presumptive eligibility number into the field. Let's wait until they actually have a Medicaid number.
Yes. You hear that? So the question was, should we enter a presumptive eligibility number into Medicaid field? There's no, we're going to wait until they actually have real number into that field. So until they have their until they have received an approved number for Medicaid, and then go back and enter the number. So you can go back and enter, edit, and also at the end you can go back and edit the client profile. All right, so our next step is to enter the NOMs, which stand for National Outcome Measure. So you will click that tab up there, and you'll notice that it's empty. So we'll click New. The NOM, because we're entering it today, you'll click New. And today is, so if we investment in 6 months or at discharge, I apologize, you would obviously click correct corresponding one. So now is unemployed, but there's clearly other choices, so you would click correct corresponding. If he was under 18, you choose, but all of ours 18. If he had other things that were going on, choose a different well. So for right now, it's not applicable. Employment is not in any, but if something else were applicable, you could choose that as well. Arrangement. So there are lots of choices you could do for living arrangement, but one of the major things that I point out here is homeless. So for our intents and purposes, homeless is meant for habitation, couch surfing, or lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Kind of the definition we're looking at for homelessness. A residential facility, I think the rest of these are really kind of self-explanatory. That one is really, I feel strongly needed a clear-cut answer. So for Jackson today, he is independently living because he lives in his own home. The roles is for a person, so you usually not use needle using needles, so we'll one educated from high school. School attendance. School attendance is a mandatory field that must be filled in. For your folks, you will fill in applicable because they are most likely not in school. Criminal involvement is the number of times that your participant has been involved with the criminal justice system in the past 30 days. So how many times have they been arrested? How many times have they been in court? How many times have they, I think those will be the major ones that you have, but the number of times they've involvement in the past. So he's had test, so we're going to put social support is the amount of times they've attended a self-help group in the last 30. So, housing category, permanent housing. Are they living? Sorry, let me check my notes really quickly because I wrote this down. Permanent housing is owned or leased situation. Temporary housing is transitional or shelters, hotels, motels, or living with family or friends. Institutional housing is an SOF or a nursing home or hospital, jail, prisons, etc. And then homeless is the last one. Housing stability. So how stable is their house? Have they been there for less than 6 months, or 6 months or longer? How stable is that housing situation? And then are they living in supported housing right now? And then this one, if they're male or female, if they're male, you won't be able to answer. If they're female, it'll be yes or no. So level of residential support. If they're living in a place that is, if they're living with individuals that provide support, then you would choose that. Residential support not needed or not provided by consumers. So they live alone, or they live with others that of his or her choice. And then the rest of the choices, this one I feel pretty self-explanatory because it really kind of defines itself there in the answer. So community integration, same thing. Are they living in an environment that's fully integrated, or are they living with others that have the same thing that are going on, or are they living in an environment that is for those that have mental health or addiction issues? And then what is their primary substance abuse choice? So we're going to choose alcohol for him today, because we're going to choose this to be pretty easy. Insert. This is really helpful because the age pops, whenever there's something wrong, it'll pop up and tell you exactly what's wrong. I did that on purpose to help set an example. If you believe that I have a piece of property I want to sell you too. All right, so our next one is that we move on then to the diagnosis and agreement. So you will want to, I'm sorry, let me, are there any questions about the NOMS section?
Question about the what YWCA considered, would that be a crisis residential? So rather than giving you information that may or may not be correct, because I kind of have my theory about that, I'm going to go and pull the definitions from DARMHA, and we will provide a housing sheet for you. That way there's a clear definition for the difference between crisis residential, shelter, and so on and so forth. So again, we will get that question answered for you all in the form of a kind of a cheat sheet.
For the answer, to help with the NOMS as well, when you, under this documents tab right here, I'm not going to get right now because I don't want us to lose our place, but on this documents tab, there is documentation that helps with all of these NOMS answers and gives definitions to each one of the questions. So that might help as well with that answer. And I would strongly recommend reading through that, printing it off, having it handy, because that's definitely helped me with training and all of that stuff. So, all right, so the next step is clicking this diagnosis and agreement tab. So you'll want to go ahead and click that, and you will click new. So the agreement date is today's date because that's the day we're entering all of this information. For the primary diagnosis, for all of the diagnosis, you will want to use DSM-5 and, I'm sorry? ICD-10 information. Thank you, Sarah. So today's is F10.20, and it's C, and there's specialized treatment is the initial. So for ease of today, we are going to put no for all the additional health conditions. But if there were additional health conditions, obviously you would put the corresponding to them. And we're going to go ahead and click insert. And that is it. Your individual is now entered. So the next step is the really fun part, all right? You're going to slide over here to the left navigation bar, and you're going to hover it, and you're going to click view. Down here, you're still on Jackson's consumer view page. You're going to click edit consumer, and you're going to click this Recovery Works consumer button. And now, if there was a DOC ID number, which you would find in the collateral information that was sent over from your criminal justice provider, not all of our participants will have a DOC ID. They would only have it if they were in jail or prison. And it's okay if they don't have it. It's perfectly fine if they don't. But now you're going to click this Submit to Wits button. And it does take a minute. How you got to this page? I just forgot how did you get here? So consumer. So I got to this page by going to consumer here on the left navigation bar, just hovering my mouse over it, and then I'll do it again anyway. So consumer, sliding over and clicking, and then clicking edit consumer down here at the bottom. And then you want to click submit to Wits. And ta-da! It really is. You kind of want to do like a drum roll, and then ta-da! Our consumer, our participant, has now been submitted to the Wits system. So they now have a consumer client unique ID number that is the Wits ID number. So for those of you that are familiar with Access to Recovery, where you had to do dual entry, I hope that I'm hearing applause in the background. Ears is really exciting. This saves you guys a ton of time. So that's what this is. So that's all you have to do in Dharma. That I know that feels like a bulk of information, and that's a lot of stuff. Now, before June 30th, all of our providers need to be ANSA certified as well. So there will be steps where you'll have to add assessments, and you will have to do the ANSA, which is happening right here, inside of Dharma as well. We are not going to go over that in today's training because you become ANSA certified, and that happens, you are trained on how to do that in the ANSA certification process. So we're not going to go over that today. So for right now, we are going to switch over to the Wits process. So now this is what the Wits page looks like. So I'm going to log in. this is a wrong password. We'll see. Yes. So, each individual that log that so we have been diligently working on getting information to all. Oh, shoot. So we've been working on getting out information over the last Saturday and Sunday on the website, and there is a new user that's now on the website. So once you turn in that form, then you will get login information that comes directly to you. So you will get your own unique username, password, and PIN that comes to you. So you'll notice here at the top that there is a new person that has been referred to me. So first step is that we want to look for that person. So question before I move on and start looking for that person?
It is about, so the question that we have for those organizations who have a combined assessment with the answer to it submits electronically, so throughout your electronic record, we are not going to require that you go and enter these folks into Dharma. There will be one we will require, and I was just typing that, but I'll just explain it now. So the dispatches over to Dharma through your electronic record, will have to do is go into Dharma, view your consumer, and edit the consumer so that you can see this consumer is a Recovery Works participant. The only way that you will be able to start services and Wits, the only way that we will be able to do anything with the Medicaid match, the only way that we will know as a Recovery Works person is if that box is selected in Dharma. So that will be that one piece that will be addition for you, is that go into Dharma, log in directly, and one box. But the rest of the information, as it will be sent over electronic medical record, will suffice.
I apologize, you guys. You want to click on activity, and you want to click on encounters. So I met with Jack today, and then I provided 3 units of doing stuff elsewhere, which sounds really odd, but I met with Jackson here, so Marion County. Again, remember the yellow colored fields are fields that are required. So I met with Jackson today. At 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So it automatically fills in the duration for you, and that was 6 units because these are quarter-hour units. And because it was offered elsewhere, not here on site, I have to say that service was provided by elsewhere agency. So I'm going to click save. And because I have permission to automatically release this to billing, I'm going to go ahead and click release to billing. And that's it. So I'm going to add one more encounter. It's called doing stuff here. That was also done at Marion County. And the start date was today as well. And the start time was 12:30 p.m. Actually, it was at 1 p.m. because that would be really hard for him to travel, to 2 p.m. So duration automatically fills in. Again, quarter hours. So I got 4 units. And that service was provided here. So there's no encounter note that's necessary. So I'm going to click save. And I'm going to release that one to billing as well. And that's done. Folks, that's it. That's all that's necessary. So if I want to go back though and I want to check what kind of units, encounter units he has left, I can go back up here to client bill and I can check his voucher. And I can hover over this and click profile. And I can see now that I authorized $250, so I authorized 25 units, $250. I've spent $20. There's 21 units left. Same with doing stuff elsewhere. I authorized 10 units. There's 4 units still available. Now, at the end of the month, when I'm ready to do another voucher in 30 days, what we're asking everybody to do is we're asking everybody to close out their vouchers that have available units still on them prior to building up a new voucher. So it's pretty easy. All you have to do is click this button that says close. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to? And you click yes. And all of that available units, all of that available amount that's left over will roll back into the Recovery Works Fund and allow you to start building more money up for Jackson. Not more money, unspent money. So let me go back to the home page for the Wits training. And I'm going to clear this client so that we're really on the home page. I think that there's some questions, so let me get to those before I go on to the rest of the manual.
All right. So the one question we had was, can the effective date be backdated? So this is related to when you are building the voucher, and you're entering that effective date. And so I'm trying to figure out the answer to that. Does the system, this is kind of Angie and I talking right now about how this will work. Does the system allow it? Because we're creating for moving forward.
So you can never have overlapping vouchers. So I'm not sure that it would ever be necessary for you to have a backdated voucher, because you would have a voucher that was still currently open to be able to add services to it. Makes sense. Once you start expending vouchers, encounters from a voucher, then it freezes up and it doesn't allow you to add services to it. It doesn't mean that you can't, it just means that you need to contact Recovery Works staff, and we have to add into that for you. But I think to answer your question, I don't know if it would ever be necessary for you to do that because you can't have overlapping vouchers.
So the question actually clarified was, no, we're referring to a new client we saw yesterday. So this is more about the data entry.
Oh.
So I saw them yesterday, and now I want to enter and build their vouchers today. Can I go back and bill from yesterday?
You have 7 days to enter all of your encounters. You have 7 days to build that voucher and move forward. So yes, I think.
So if I did an intake.
So if you did an intake today, you have 7 days to enter the encounter, but you also have 7 days to build the voucher.
To claim for it. Perfect. Thank you for that clarification, Porter Stark. That was a good question. Now we have one other question, and that is Duncan. It says, I understand billing for the services provided. What you described a few minutes ago sounded like you had to predict what you were going to be doing into the future, almost like a PA. Thought PAs were only needed if the billing was over $2,500 of those select costs. So this is different than a prior authorization. This is kind of as you would do in a treatment plan. So we put into our treatment plans, we want to provide this service this many times over this period of time. And so that's kind of setting it up that we will be claiming this type of service over the next 30 days, and we believe that we should be claiming this many. And so we're not actually saying that you have to do those. We're saying that you have to build the voucher anticipation that those are the services that you're going to provide. And I'm going to let Angie clarify kind of how we would rather you build a voucher that has services than what you might even intend on putting out there for that 30 days, rather than going on the low end. Like, I want to see them for therapy, then I need to make sure that I put in units to see them weekly for therapy. If they don't show up that many times or something happens, it's not going to hurt you that you didn't claim. We can release those back into the system. The key thing is that you're saying this is what you want to do over the next month so that you can put those into the system and then claim for those. So Angie, do you want to explain how if they use them, it's gone, but if they don't, what they do just to batch it back?
I think no, question is, it would mean we're doing our own treatment plan, a recovery plan for the provider, and submit. So the plan submitted in Wits, we just, in order for bill in Wits, you have to build that in increments. There's no way for you to do it in long increments or do it after the fact. And so that's just one of the caveats, I guess, of the Wits system. So I guess that's why we discussed the closing of the that you even if you overthink you're gonna have, in this example here, even if you think that you're going to meet 2 times a week for individualized SUD counseling sessions, and only meeting once a week, and so you put 8 in there instead of 4, that's still okay, because the reason why we're having you close out those vouchers at the end of every month is so that those unutilized funds go back into the pot, so to speak, so that the participant kind of can reuse that money. It doesn't go not claimed, I guess. Duncan, I'm happy to kind of walk through that with you a little bit further. If this isn't making sense, I'll email you and we'll walk through it. So, if we're already using Wits for the gambling funding, will we use the same login? No, you will be using a different login because it's different funding stream. Sorry, Ashley. So, I want to share with you a couple other information. We're done with. I'm gonna get my screen really quick. We're with this. I just share just a few other kind of keys in this system that I think are helpful for you as we move forward. So we've closed voucher, but there are other. You have the option, always have the option to change your in here. The manual walks through how you can do that. I'm going to spend time on how you today, because I think that it's very self-explanatory for you in the book. You can change your security questions as well. If you're an admin person, you have the option to view all vouchers for your agency. You have the option to review all of this for your agency. One of the things that I want to walk through with you is how the process works. So on Friday of every single week of the night, even know when it happens. All of the encounters that your agency has to billing are together, and the computer system to process those. So that kind of happens on Friday evening, all day Saturday. When we get into the office on Monday, we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday until 4 p.m. to kind of go through all of those. Any of them that are rejected and in pending status, we have the opportunity to go through to figure out why they were rejected or why they were sent into a pending process. So we may reach out to you as an agency and say, hey, figure out what's going on here with these encounters. At 4 p.m. on Wednesday evening, they are finished with the adjudication process, which is what we call the process on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 4 p.m. on Wednesday evening, Shannon, who is our guru, as I call him, gathers all of that information, and a process happens. We start to pull it together, and it starts matching that the tail matching process. So on that process finishes, that then is sent to the clerk's office for payment. On Thursday and Friday, the clerk's office finishes that file, does what they need to do with it. Friday, the clerk's office pays 35-day receipts audit on Thursday, and then that process starts all over again in the middle of on Friday. So I know that money is kind of to all of our agencies, so I think it's really important for everybody to know what that looks like. That process in your manual as well. So you can review all of the claims and what those look like when they got paid, if they were sent to pending or if rejected. You can review that on the process to looks like is in the manual. You can also review the payments. So when we sent them to payments and how far out that process is. You can also create your own announcements. So just like we have announcements here, you can have your own internal announcements just right under ours. And then there's also a glossary inside of there. So it talks about kind of, what is what on your thing. So what these little rollover things mean, what the yellow boxes mean, what the grayed out boxes mean, all of that stuff. So there's a glossary at the tail end of the manual for you to kind of help walk you through that. So let me close this out and get out of the sharing mode. Make this a little bit bigger. And go to the next page. So I'm going to finish out questions.
So we have, if you go over and exhaust your units within the 30-day period, the question is, can you add a new voucher to start claiming additional services within that same time frame?
So you can't add, once you have started claiming encounters within your voucher, it freezes and it won't allow you to add any more services to that voucher. However, you have a wonderful team of staff within your Recovery Works team, and so you can email us at the Recovery Works email address and let us know how many units you need added to what service, and we are happy to help you do that at any time. And so we'll get in there, we'll add that. What you'll send to us is the unique client ID number, the Wits unique client ID participant, service, and how many you need added. Care of that for you. As for, you can't have vouchers, you can't have multiple vouchers open that lap in time. So unfortunately, that just doesn't work. But we're always help you, and you can always call us, and we'll help address the issue too. So.
You said you're cutting them out.
Oh.
So that's all the more reason that it would be better to build vouchers over the amount that you think you might need versus on that low end, because again, if you don't use them all, you can release them back to then claim for another set of value upcoming 30 days. You exhaust and need more, that process of, hey, calling us and us having to do it for you. Again, it's not going to be that difficult because we'll handle it right away for you. But it's just, you would have to do and just building for the idea that you might go over and in that just case.
I think the rest of it cover in a second.
So Sean says that he can't hear us, but that I don't think is anybody else. There was one other question, and that was, will each staff need own Wits access? And so that's where you're going to talk about that now.
I'm going to cover that right now. Okay, so next steps. So every provider must be entered in the Wits system. So there are 4 different categories in which our providers may or may not fall into. So if the provider is only providing services, the individual will be rendering staff. If the provider is providing services, entering vouchers and encounters, and releasing those encounters to billing, the individual will be considered released to billing. If the provider is only data, the individual would be data entry. And if you're a supervisor and you want what's happening, you would be read only. The next step is that you want to turn in a Recovery Works Wits form to our Recovery Works email address. It can be found on the main page of the Recovery Works website. It's down at the very bottom under additional information. You will want to fill out the form in its entirety, and each user have a unique email address. And what we mean by that is that each user must have their own email address. You can't be sharing email addresses or anything like that. This is what the form looks like. It's pretty easy. And here again is our email address. Billing staff is released to billing.
There's a question from Evie.
Evie, the encounter notes have gone away. The only time that you'll be entering an encounter note in this system is when the service is provided by a subcontractor. So, and that's when I use that example of service was provided elsewhere. So you would just type in service was provided by ABC agency. And that's just an example. Obviously, you would say service was provided by whoever the service was provided by. So one of the big takeaways that we had with ATR was that there was so much duplicative work. And so we really acknowledge that in this program that we are not having providers and agencies do all of that duplicative work. So we'll work at that. We'll take a look at progress notes. We'll take a look at your electronic medical records. We'll take a look at documentation and all of that stuff when we come and do audits. And that's how we'll be able to check your quote-unquote encounter notes that you would normally have been putting in Wits. We'll be checking all of that when we do our audits. So
if there is not a note to match, then we'll ask for that money in return.
Yes. So as Sarah just said, if there's not a note to match somewhere in your EMRs or in your notes somewhere else, we'll be asking for that money back. So there needs to be records of it somewhere, but it doesn't need to be in Wits. So yeah. So Sean, hopefully you heard that question answered. If not, please feel free to shoot me an email and we can chat later. So we do still have a little bit more time, but that is the end. That covers everything unless there were more questions. This is beautiful. It's the best training ever. All right, well.
Do you want to remind them about the vouchers and when those will go through and when they'll actually be able to access this? There we go. I read their mind.
JB Sarah was just whispering to me, do you want to let people know when we can start using Wits? All right, so beautiful question. Wits is ready to start using on January 1. However, here's the caveat. We can't start using it until you all get us your user forms. And so that's kind of what our holdup is right now. So as soon as you all start sending us your user forms, then we'll start entering those as fast as we possibly can, and then we can start using Wits. So, Jamie, I know specifically we're working on yours, and so everybody else, if you can get me your forms, then we can get going. So that's what's holding us up at this point. So it will be ready to go January 1. The sooner that you get in the WITS access forms, the sooner that you can get going as an individual.
And so then will we provide them notice, hey, you're ready to go?
They'll get in. Yeah. As soon as your information is in, you'll get a personal email from the WITS system with your username, password, and PIN. Again, you can access the manual that we talked about today online. You can also access the form online as well. I know you guys are all tired of using those voucher forms. All right, well, if there are no more questions, application for the building enrollment for Dharma must be on service
Oh, all the info that's required in Dharma. Such as what? Ashley can call us.
Ashley, would you send us an email so that we can reach out to you? Because I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Thank you.
We'll hold on here for another 5, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll wait. We were scheduled until 4, so we'll hold on and wait for a few more minutes. I'm gonna.
Oh, how does the housing? I don't know. That's a big question.
That is a really big question, Ms. Smith. Exactly. Why don't you shoot an email to Recovery Works and we can have a conversation off of this webinar about that. All right, at this time, I think that we will go ahead and, for the sake of everybody on the webinar, we'll go ahead and if you guys don't have any more questions, you're welcome to leave. If you do still have questions, we'll stay on for a little bit longer in the chat box and continue to answer questions via that way. We hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday over the next few days, and we hope that you have a great day. As I see here, there are just a few more questions that have popped up. So, does each provider need a Dharma login and a Wits login? Yes, and we have been working diligently with agencies to make sure that you can get Dharma logins. There is a new user, a Dharma new user form on the Recovery Works page. And as I've been sharing here for the last few minutes, and I'm going to flip back. So every provider must be entered into the Wits system. So not every provider will have a Wits login. It really just depends on at what level they should be using Wits. So if they are released to billing, or if they're data entry, or if they're read only, they will have a Wits login. If they're simply rendering staff, they will not have a login. So Sean, if you still have questions about that, please feel free to email us and we can talk further about that. And I'm happy to walk you through that a little bit longer. Steve, oh, never mind. She answered it right there on there. All right, it looks like that's it. So again, if you guys have direct questions, please, please, please email us here at the website, and I'm sorry, at the direct email address, and we will get with you just as soon as we possibly can. But again, we hope that you have a wonderful holiday long weekend, and you enjoy it with your friends and family. So on that note,